And we are now recording. My name is Lauren Woodman, and I am an instructional designer in online learning and educational technology for the next 4 days. I am joined by my colleague, Sandy Hannigan, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Whoop. I kind of lost you for a minute. I don't know if you can, my connection is unstable. I don't know if you can still hear me.
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Yes, hi, Sandy Hannigan, and I know most of you, and I am the instructional technologist in the Office of Online Learning and Educational Technology.
Our presentation today is Microsoft Office 365 accessibility. For those of you who haven't attended any of our presentations in the past, we're really laid back and open, so feel free to type any questions in the chat, or even better, since there's just two of you, you can unmute yourself and ask a question. Feel free to interrupt us if you have something to add. We just ask if you're not speaking, just to mute yourself so we don't have any feedback. So here is what we are going to go over today. We're going to talk about headings, tables, fonts, and links. Oh my. We'll talk about accessible templates. We will discuss dictation, read aloud, and transcribe, which are different features within Microsoft. We'll talk about Microsoft Lens. We'll discuss Excel accessibility, including sheet tabs and chart labels. We'll go over alt text, which is how you can make your pictures accessible. And lastly, we'll talk about the accessibility checker, which is how you can make sure that all of your content is accessible. So I'm going to dive right in, and we're going to talk about headings. So by the way, I'm going to explain these. The way this kind of works is I explain it, and then there's usually screenshots or a video. So if you don't understand right away, know that you'll see an example of it afterwards. So why use headings? Why not just make the text larger or bold or underline it, right? We always see, like, you know, if you want to make something a title, you could just make it really big, right? Do you have a question, Anna Maria? Okay, you're muted. It's fine. It's fine. So headings can help make sure your documents are accessible. Screen readers recognize headings as headings, and they help students who use screen readers navigate the document. Without the proper headings, your document might not be read in the correct order. So in order to set up headings, just type the text that you want into a Word document, select the sentence you want to add the header to, and on the home page under styles, or you can press Alt-H and then L if you are a keyboard shortcut person. I am not. You will select the heading that you want, and typically your headings will go in order. So you would select maybe heading 1. Word automatically applies a font and color change to help make it clear that that's a heading and a title. And then the next heading type is heading 2, that automatically has a different font and sometimes a different color as well. So here is the example of what that looks like. So here you go to, if you've ever seen this box on Microsoft Word and you've wondered, like, I don't even know what that's about, I'm just going to ignore it, right? Yes. So this is your normal text, that's the default. And that's fine for paragraphs. If you're writing a letter, that's fine. But let's say you're doing a notes guide or something for students, right? And you want to split up the chapters. You might do separate headings for those chapters. All you have to do is select, highlight the text and hit heading 1. It automatically formats it that way. And then underneath it, you just make sure you're doing normal text, type out your normal text, next heading or subheading, heading 2. And you can see here, these are the default kind of header structure. So this is the size difference in color that happens automatically when you just click header 1 or header 2. This box will pop up on the right-hand side. Let me move you over. On the right-hand side, so you can see that there are all of these different types of styles. So there's headings, there's also titles, subtitles, emphasis. So these might go more if you're, writing a book or a text or something like that. But you'll probably only have to really worry about those headings. So yeah, that is headings. Any questions about headings before I move on to tables? No? Okay. So why use tables? So header rows and column headings allow Word, again, and screen reading software to understand and communicate information about the table. So kind of how we use headers to separate sections in a document, you use those header rows or header columns to say, this is the top part of my content, right? I have this table and this is what this column means. This is what this row means. Without it, a student who's using a screen reader or a person who's using a screen reader doesn't know what any of the information in that column belongs to, right? They don't know what it means. So I'm going to show you how to set up a header row in a table, and I'm going to show you the screenshot rather than just reading these instructions to you. Just so you know, I am going to give you a copy of this presentation at the end, so you'll have all of these instructions already. So building a table is very easy. You can go to insert table and then select however many cells you want. You can always add more cells. And then you get this option called table design. And this is where you can make, pretty colors and make it stand out. That also can be important for accessibility if you have a lot of data, just, making it look different. But if you notice here to the left, you have an option, a checkbox to make something a header row. And that is where you can put in, I am column 1, I am column 2. This might be, maybe you're doing data by year, right? And this is 2021 data, 2022 data, 2023 data. And then all of your information could go in the rows below that. So very simple. All you have to do is check the box, make sure you're highlighted in that box or in that row, and then that becomes your header row.
I have a question. When I insert a table, that is not automatically clicked, the header row?
I don't believe so, no. So once you have, and you can do that at the end, once you've made your table and you have your header row, just highlight the row, go to table design, and make sure that that first row box is checked. And that should be, instead of just being content, that should be a description, right? Like I said, either,
it's the title of the column.
Right, exactly. Yes. So even if you type in the title of the column, it's not automatically delineated that is a header row. Yeah. And again, this is a lot of this information is information that is not necessarily super important to students who can, who have full visual ability. But if you're using a screen reader, absolutely vital. You're not going to get all of the information you need without some of these little tips and tricks. So I'm moving on to fonts and colors now. So as far as fonts and colors go, the best practice is to use simple sans serif fonts with adequate spacing between letters. And sans serif is Latin for without feet. And all that means is if Times New Roman has the little lines under, those are feet. So you want to use a font that does not have those. Again, that makes it easier for screen readers to use. Interestingly, sans serif is easier to read digital. Serif fonts are easier to read in print. So there's a lot of books and hard copy texting still use serif fonts. That's why. But good sans serif font examples are Calibri, Lucida, Arial. All of those are sans serif, and Calibri is the default already in Microsoft. So you can keep the default. You don't need to change anything. Avoid a compressed or fancy or italic or underline fonts. All those, there's a ton of fancy options. You don't need any of those. Underlining, and I see Anna Maria like underlining. Underlining should be reserved for two cases. One is if it's a title of a book, or depending on what kind of citation you're using, if it calls for underlining, use it then, or a link. Links are typically underlined. That happens by default when you add a hyperlink. Again, having a linked content or having underlined words can make people think that it's a link. It can be kind of confusing. So if you have important information, you can bold it. Again, you can use headers, you can use different things to help that stand out, but avoid just underlining for the sake of underlining. And to make sure your text is easily readable, be sure to leave some white space in your document. If you're using PowerPoint, be mindful of the background that you're using. So in addition to like busy backgrounds or, you know, a light background with light text, make sure your make sure your background is either off-white or like a cream color. Even a bright white can be hard to read on a screen, right? Like when things are really bright white. So go for an off-white or a cream with a dark text, or a dark background with a white or a light text. So you'll notice this PowerPoint theme is dark with white text. As I just mentioned, underline text, how to create meaningful links. So, you know, when you type in a link, you usually just have whatever that website is, right? You can type http:/nccolet.com. It'll usually hyperlink it for you. You don't have to change anything. If that link, that's a pretty short link, so not a big deal. But, you know, let's imagine you have a very long link. Again, someone with a screen reader, that screen reader is going to read every single character of that link. Yes, it can go
For a
on.
half hour.
Yes, and it can also look really messy, right? If you have this long link, very easy to fix. You can right click on it, go to edit hyperlink, and it will ask you, well, what's the text that I should display? And you can type in whatever you want it to say. So here I said, I want that to actually say OLET website rather than this long hyperlink. You can have that text to display, say whatever you want, something nice, short and sweet. And then you put in the address, the web address, the long, ugly URL underneath that, click OK. And now you have your nice, pretty, meaningful link rather than the long URL. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. I have one more. These are all the like nitpicky technical things. Then we'll get into some fun tools, I promise. So this is the last kind of nitpicky thing. So this is accessible templates. And to use an accessible template, open Microsoft. And you know, when you go to open in Microsoft, typically you can either open a blank document, and that's what most of us click. But then they have all those pre-existing templates, right? And you're like, I don't need to build a resume today. I'm just going. Well, in the search bar, you can type in accessible, and all of the templates that are already accessible will come up. And that means that they have been formatted correctly. They have the proper fonts. They have the proper colors. They have, if they have links, you know, they're already meaningful. If they have tables built into them, those tables are already accessible, and they are just ready and waiting for you to put your content in. Especially for PowerPoint, this can be a game changer. There are so many amazing PowerPoint templates, and people don't even realize that have, I mean, and I'm talking 20, 30 slides long, where all you have to do is change the words and it's already all accessible. And part of accessibility that I don't believe we talk about here, but we do talk about in depth in the PowerPoint accessibility, is reading order. And those accessible templates already have the correct reading order. You can check that by going to the selection pane in PowerPoint, and it will tell you the order that items are going to be read in. Screen readers read from the bottom to the top. So you would always want to make sure that your title is at the bottom. Sometimes if you add a lot of text boxes or pictures to a single PowerPoint slide, things are, you know, all over the place. And if someone's using a screen reader, it might read them and say, hey, there's a picture here. Oh, wait, no, now there's a, now here's some text. And then lastly, here's the title, you know, so you want them to get that information in a way that makes sense. And you would think, oh, it's listed just like that on the PowerPoint. That's not necessarily the way it's going to be read. So you want to check that selection pane to make sure it's read in the right order. So, you know, title, content, then image, etc. So now Sandy is going to talk to us about some fun tools in Microsoft, starting with dictation.
All right, thanks, Lauren. These are, yes, these definitely are fun tools, and I really like this tech dictation. It is also available in most of the other Microsoft products as well. So, you know, you'll find this in Microsoft Word as well as Outlook. So if you'd like to dictate something instead of typing it all out on the home button, if you look all the way over to the right, you're going to see a little microphone there. And when you click on that, it turns, I think it turns red. And you can actually dictate the words that you would like to put into your PowerPoint or into your Word document or into your Outlook. So wait for the button to turn on and then start listening to it. Move your cursor to a placeholder and your sphere. So it's really, really very neat. You can insert a punctuation at any time by saying them. So, you know, the cat ran away, period, and it will put the period in for you. And you can say next line. It will go to the next line. You can fix the mistakes with your keyboard without having to toggle the microphone on and off. So if you've made a mistake and it should have been a question mark, just go back and put your question mark in. So dictation is very, very handy and actually very fun. So you can actually dictate your PowerPoint slides as well as other Microsoft products.
Yep. And we're going to show a quick video on that. My trick for dictation is speaker notes in PowerPoint. So speaker notes are really convenient because you don't have to put as many words on the PowerPoint slide. Right. And if you put the cursor in the speaker notes, you can then, when you're practicing your PowerPoint, dictate it out. And then when you share, you'll notice when I share this with you, I have a lot of my speaker notes in there. That way you can get your speaker notes written without actually having to type them out. You can just say them while you're practicing. So here's a short video on dictation.
Hello.
Last year, we saw a 20% increase in sales. Now, most of this is attributed to...
The bear and her cubs hungrily searched the forest for berries. Awesome!
So that is dictation.
And by the way, if you have students with any type of a disability, maybe they, you know, have mobility issues, you can direct them to dictate and have them dictate whatever they need to dictate to you.
Yeah. And I think Anna Maria had a question, and then Anne had a question as well.
Yeah, is it the video, when the video said awesome, it made an exclamation point and the speaker didn't say exclamation point. So is it smart enough to take some inflection with
a little bit? Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, sometimes I've noticed that sometimes it will put in periods automatically in my sentences if I take a pause, and then sometimes it does not.
Okay.
So yeah. So you'll notice even, and this is built all on the same software. So the captions that I'm using here are Microsoft's built-in subtitle captions. We'll talk about that. I think that's in the end here, or it might be in the PowerPoint one. But you'll notice sometimes there's punctuation, and then sometimes there's not, depending on you know how I pause and how I speak. I tend to do a lot of like run-on sentences. And what, did you have the same question or?
No, I can't remember if it was you or if it was Sandy, because I've seen both of you in the last week or so said this. Is dictation only available in specific, like it's not available in 19, right? So if we have a student that are wanting to use it, they have to use the 365 version?
Yes, and you know what? I just heard that they're coming out with a new version of Microsoft Office. They're not sure. They were going to call it 2021. They may even call it, but it's coming out in 22. And the dictate may not be available. You would have to ask like IT to add it into ours. So we need to watch for that. Right now, it is available in the Microsoft 365 version that we
Okay,
have, but next year it may not be available in Word, and I believe it was Excel.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Also,
So
another
we have to look for it if it's not
Yeah.
there.
And we do have access to Office 365 for free. So do students. So that's what I really recommend downloading. And this is it can be a 365 app as well. It doesn't just have to be the web version. It can be the
Right.
full downloaded version.
Right.
And there is also talk about whether or not we will go to Office 2021-22 or just stick with the 365 versions.
Yeah,
All right.
it's
So
a nice feature though.
So we are moving on to read aloud, Sandy.
Okay, so you can also have your Word read aloud to you. So when you open up some type of a document, you can click or tab at the beginning of the passage that you want to hear, and you're looking for the little read aloud again up in the ribbon. And when you click on read aloud, it will be read to you, which is really awesome. That's an awesome feature. I think I mentioned this before, but I had a blind student in my class, and he was able to use both the dictate and the read aloud to complete, and it really was very, very helpful. And also some of the like I use Connect, and I have a Connect book that has a read aloud function in it too, which is built off this Microsoft as well. So I hope the read aloud doesn't go away. I think that is probably here to stay, but you can have your Outlook emails read to you, as well as any of your documents. So there it is, read aloud in Microsoft Outlook. You just have to enable it to make it more accessible. So if you do have any, students that need accessibility in your class, just be sure that you go to your Outlook and enable that show read aloud in the feedback options, and it will appear up on your ribbon. So I think that's just a really great feature, and one that, believe it or not, students don't know about it until you tell them about it. So just check it out.
So now we're going to show you a couple videos on a couple other really cool tools in Microsoft. And the first one of those is Transcribe.
Save time by recording audio right inside Word and get an automatic transcript inserted into your text. To start, select Dictate, Transcribe. You can upload audio you pre-recorded, or select Start Recording to begin your interview or conversation. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me today.
You're welcome. I'm happy to have the opportunity.
Could you start off by telling me a bit about yourself and your organization? Continue your conversation, then select Save and Transcribe Now when finished. You'll see your transcript with different speakers automatically separated. Select the play button or a timestamp to hear your results. Could you start off by telling me a bit about yourself and your organization? And edit lines if needed. You can either add all to document or just a single quote by selecting the plus icon on any line of the transcript.
So that's like a super cool feature. And if you know, I've done some trainings on Otter, which is kind of a similar voice to text transcription tool. And as you see, they were kind of doing that as an interview. And I'm thinking even for, students who are doing interviews with people, or even, notes or things like that, that's a really cool way to, have that audio and then have it transcribed automatically. I love how it breaks out the speakers and timestamps it and everything. So another really, really useful tool. Any questions about that before I go on to Microsoft Lens? All right, so there's two videos here that I'm going to show. I believe they're both pretty short, but Microsoft Lens is a tool that allows you to read aloud text from images that you take. So almost like a screenshot reader or, you know, an image reader. But I will play the videos and let you see kind of how that works.
Hey everyone, I am Leslie Fisher. Hello from BET 2019. I am here to share with you some of my favorite tips that you can use right now. If you have not seen Office Lens before, Office Lens allows you to take a picture of a whiteboard, and it allows you to take a picture of a document, even a business card. And once you do that, you can share that image to a variety of locations. I will share mine usually to Microsoft OneNote. Why? Because Microsoft OneNote will take any picture that has text and it will go ahead and it will recognize the text, performing OCR. Once it does that, a world of opportunities are available to me, including Immersive Reader, which is an application that will actually help me read the text more effectively. Perfect for me as a struggling reader, as well as teachers and students, and anyone you know that might struggle with reading. So I can go within moments from taking a picture of text, be it on a page, on a newspaper, place it into OneNote, and having it read to me and helping me, not just in the language I speak, but a variety of languages. So imagine a student taking a picture of a page of a textbook in English and having that page of a textbook read back to them in their native language. It's available and you can do it, and it's all available for free.
That's one of the newer features.
So I saw your face, Anna Maria, I know. And so I wanted to show that video because I think it's a really good promotional video. The next video is more of like a how-to, but there are a couple of things in there that she mentioned. The first one is that it helps you read. Well, the first thing is the OCR. So it will recognize text for you and basically take the text out of an image, pull it out and make it so that it can be read, it can be highlighted, it can be edited. That's the first really cool feature. The second feature is that it will highlight nouns, verbs, pronouns, all the parts of speech, and it can do that in different colors. So for students who are, you know, maybe don't know their different parts of speech, it can help them recognize those. And the last thing is that part of Microsoft, if you notice in the subtitles, or anytime you are doing any audio things with Microsoft, dictate, transcribe, it can translate subtitles into over 60 different languages. So if the input is English, it can automatically translate that into those 60 different languages. So let's say that it's a picture of the textbook that's in English and the student wants it in Spanish. They can select Spanish as their output language and then have it read aloud to them in that language.
And this is through the Lens, or this is one you got to put it in OneNote?
So she puts it in OneNote. We're going to talk about Immersive Reader. So Office Lens is like the app that allows you to take the pictures and share it out. The Android version has Immersive Reader built in, but Immersive Reader is part of OneNote as well. So you don't necessarily have to use Office Lens. Let's say it's already, you know, the student can upload an image into OneNote and do the same thing. It doesn't have to come from Lens to do it in OneNote, if that makes sense. So there, you could do it in Lens, you could do it in OneNote. You don't have to do them together.
Okay, but the features that you were talking about is in OneNote.
The feature, yes, and it's also in the Immersive Reader.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so it's in both. So I'm going to show the how-to video now.
I'll be demoing Immersive Reader and Office Lens for Android. So first, take a picture of a book. Then click Done.
I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I'm going to make it full screen if I can.
Yeah.
And then the read.
Give me one moment.
There you go.
I'll be demoing Immersive Reader and Office Lens for Android. So first, take a picture of a book. Then click Done, and then the Read button. Now we're going to run optical character recognition, and it goes right to the Immersive Reader. Now I've hit play.
Wonderful book that explores the beauty.
And we see the text-to-speech. I'll open Immersive Reader. I'll choose some things like background colors and increase spacing. Change the fonts, just like you can in Immersive Reader. I'll also do things like translate to Spanish and highlight nouns, picture dictionary, and then read it out loud.
Un libro maravilloso que explora la belleza, la rareza y la complejidad.
That was really short, sweet. You kind of went through that really quickly. But those are the, the settings, and it really is that simple. So you take the picture in the app, you hit Immersive Reader, and then you have all those different options to play with. I believe there is also an app for Apple. I have an Android, so I did the video for Android because I could test it and know that actually worked. But if you have an Apple, go ahead and download it. You should be able to log in with your Northampton information and try it out.
Cool.
All right. So I think that we are moving back into slightly less interesting things for a moment, but we are about to finish up. Does anyone have any questions about that stuff before I move on to Excel and alt text? Yes, Anna Maria.
I do. For the Immersive Reader, do the students know that they can? Okay.
No.
Probably not.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be great, right? Because yes, it would be great for them to use this tool and to know they have this tool. So please tell them and encourage them to use it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And that might be something like even Sandy, where you want to reach out to, like, I'm thinking even like the developmental instructors, like that could be a really great place, and like modern languages as well. Especially for those like parts of speech, it's like, I think that would be really helpful for them. So we might want to target certain instructors to get their students to know, and disability services too.
Yeah, and ESL.
Mm-hmm.
That would be great. Great for them.
All right. So Excel headers.
Hey, everyone.
Okay. Excel headers. So this is similar to the information we covered about headers previously, but it refers specifically to headers in Excel. You can set headers in existing table the same way that we described before. And you can add headers to a new table by going to create table. And in that dialog, it asks you, what's the data for your table? And there's a button to check that says, my table has headers. Otherwise, this looks, sorry about that. This looks familiar. Under the design, check that box for header row. Sheet tabs. So I'm a big fan of having one Excel workbook and a lot of tabs in there. Yes. So basically this is just make sure your sheet tabs, if you've done that, make sure that people know that you've done that. I can't tell you how many times I've sent someone a workbook and they say like, it's not on there. I'm like, no, it's tab 7. You got to go to tab 7, right? Also, just make sure that you have those, you've renamed those tabs to something that is brief and unique and explains what that data is. Alt text. So alt text is important for describing images in a document for individuals using a screen reader. So you and I, let's say that you have a PowerPoint with a picture of a chart, right? Easy peasy, like we can see that, right? But others who are using a screen reader, it just skips right over that. It's a picture. It doesn't know what to do with it. There's no information. So you have to put in the information there for them. Very easy to add alt text to a chart, a picture, any kind of visual in Microsoft. You just right click on that image and you select edit alt text. And then it's going to ask you, how would you like to describe this object? It recommends, actually, I think the recommendation now is 2 to 3 sentences. And you'll just type in what that information is. It might be, you know, picture of a tree. It might say, this is the data from, you know, 2021's report. Or if it's literally just a silly little icon, you can just check a box to mark it as decorative. You don't have to put in a description. And then the screen reader knows that it's okay to skip it. But that way your students will know they're not missing any important information. And lastly, the accessibility checker. So we talked about a lot with accessibility today. How do you make sure that what you've created is actually accessible? Use the accessibility checker. It will tell you. The accessibility checker is available under the review tab. You click on check accessibility and it will tell you all of the results. So if you have errors, those are going to be your big issues. So like no alt text on a table or an image, no header rows in your tables. Then some things might be warnings. So, you know, hey, this row is blank because it's supposed to be blank. These things aren't in line, things like that. So you can go through each of these and it will tell you how to fix that. And if you're using the web version, it will give you a button right there. You can click on it. It'll take you right to the page and it will help you fix it right there. So the last thing I have for you is a really short video on accessibility checker. And then we will get into the badge and talking about the accessibility certificate. And that's usually the last thing I do. Once I create something, I'll just hit accessibility checker and then I'll fix it all at the end. But you can keep it running while you work if you kind of want to have a beat on how you're doing with accessibility. And here are just some resources. Again, you're going to get a link to this. I can put that into the chat now. So you'll have all of these. A lot of this is things that we covered. Some of it is additional information. And lastly, here is the QR code to claim your badge. And I will also put a link to that into the chat for you. So this first link is to the badge. And then end that, share. The second link is the presentation. And then I am going to show you, as promised, the accessibility certificate page on our website. So our website is nccolet.com. Now let's see if I can remember where this is. Training. If you go to training,
That'll do it.
Scroll down. So if you click on accessibility, that'll show all of our recordings, but you'll notice this big block at the bottom, accessibility certificate. You can click on that. It explains the certificate, how you earn it, what the requirements are. And then if you want to access the course, so to speak, it's this big button here. And excuse this because this is just because I have edit access. But this will, again, is just some details. And then each of the trainings is listed on the left-hand side here. This is a suggested order, does not have to be done in this order by any means. For example, Office 365 accessibility. I believe this is our old recording, so it'll be updated with today's recording. And then the project details TBA, that will go there. As you know, you can either select that, yes, you watched it, give me my badge, or the badge link will now be within the recording. So you have access to that once you've watched the recordings. There's oftentimes there are some additional resources. These are the ones that were in the PowerPoint if you want to review those. And you can see each of those laid out here. So some of them, like Otter's already all done. You can go in and do that, watch that recording. Oh, fix that. Watch that recording and do the project, and you'll get badges for the projects. You get badges for the trainings. And once you have, I'll go to overview because I can never remember. Once you have watched at least 7 recordings or attended at least 7 sessions, that means you have 7 badges from trainings you've gone to or watched. You've done the 3 Flipgrid reflections. I think there's only 1 or 2 available now. And you've completed 3 projects. You will automatically get your badge, and your certificate, I should say, for the whole thing. And those are all done through Badger. So for each of those things you do, you get a badge, and it should be automatically tracking you in Badger. If you ever have questions, you can reach out to Sandy, you can reach out to Sarah. She can see where you are in Badger, make sure that you're getting your credit, and you should be able to log into Badger as well and see all of the badges that you've accrued.
A question about Badger, is it connected to the NCC email?
So it's going to depend on how you claimed it when you,
Because I've never used it.
Okay, so great question. So click on the link or scan the QR. Well, click on the link that I sent in the chat.
Okay.
Claim your badge.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be up to you, but you want to make sure you stay consistent. I recommend using your NCC email.
Yeah.
Well, because it says sign in and then it says ID. So do I sign, or no, I have to create an account.
Yeah, sign in with your Northampton so you can keep them all together.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That's the best thing to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one more question. When there was the Otter exercise at the bottom, there was like a project. So would you recommend doing the project after you watch the video?
I do recommend that. You can do them at any time. We're not keeping track, and like Anna Maria, you did that project 3 months later, but it's going to be easier for you because it'll be fresh in your mind. You'll have the instructions right there. And these projects should not take you any longer than 5 minutes or so.
But, because that project has to do with Otters. I don't need to watch all the other ones to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. They're all standalone, and they all relate to their own recording, their own training.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is much clearer now.
All right. Those are great questions. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.